Okay. All right. Let's give me a demonstration for finishing up on your still life drawings. Okay. So at this point now, you should have gotten most of the still life drawing traced with the thin Sharpie pen. So this incorporates most of not all the drawings, all the little details. So definitely take your time with using some details to render the cross contour lines or contour lines, make them more 3D. So you guys pretty much like the bulk of the work at this point with the drawing. Okay, so I was gonna show you guys the Sharpie marker that you guys will use. So I'll just kind of show you some examples of like things you could do with like the marker. So obviously with the marker, I'm just gonna use like the marker brush for like this particular one. But most of you guys though use a very thin line for your marks that you guys made, so you didn't really have like much choice or options on like how thick or thin the lines you can make. Now, if I wanted to though, I could kind of just go over the lines like this to make them a little bit thicker. So that is an option you guys can choose to do with your drawings. If you don't want it too thick, but you don't want it too thin, but you can thicken your lines if you just kind of go over with multiple marks. Now with the marker though, the Sharpie markers though, this kind of eliminates that problem that you guys will have. So you can just kind of use the marker just to make your thin and thick lines. So you do have a little bit more control, like how much pressure you put on lines. So you can do some really thin lines, or you can do some like really thick lines. Okay, so you have a little bit more play with like your line weights going from thin to thick. So okay, so just something to keep in mind of. Now, in terms of using the thick markers, so you don't have to go like too crazy with it. I would just kind of use the markers to accent certain parts of the drawing. So, for example, like your objects. So, whatever your closest your object is, you probably want to use like a little bit of like a thicker line. So you can kind of go over like the edges with the like the markers. Okay, and so kind of create a little bit more depth with the drawing itself. So you don't have to go too crazy making it super thick, but this will help to pop out certain parts of the drawings a little bit more, and definitely feel like the actual. I did on a separate layer. Actual drawing itself, like the still life, you definitely want to make that part pop out the most. So I'm just gonna outline this part with the Sharpie. So you can also use the Sharpie to kind of clean up some of the line work if it got a little bit too rough. So I typically like to outline the edges, just because visually it really makes like that skull pop out more. So you see like it's popping out a lot more if I kind of hide this layer. So that kind of gives a little bit more of that oomph, a little bit more of that pop, make it look more visually interesting. Also, another thing you can do too is any of those areas that you wanted to color in black, just feel free to color in black. That's kind of what the marker's for, is color those areas in black. So you can color those areas in. So I want to do it for like that part of the skull, this part here. And same thing with your the pens you guys use last class. Just take your time with the markers. Don't rush it. I think it would help to put it here. If I remember, I think my reference had this as the black area. So just make sure to look back at your drawing if you need to, or the picture. But I know I wanted to make this black. I'll probably just make this whole thing black here. Okay. That's what you'll do with the Sharpie pen, though. You'll just kind of pick and choose areas to thicken the lines. These teeth, I can kind of make like certain areas a little bit more thicker on the edges. Maybe I can make some of these areas pop out more. It doesn't have to be like tracing the whole thing, you know, maybe you just want to pop out certain areas. So maybe this like curve right here, I'm gonna pop that out a little bit more, or this right here, just pop that out. So, you know, maybe I might keep this the same, but maybe just only the bottom part of the shoe. Because, you know, this is like, this side's like a little bit closer to me, so I want to make this a little bit darker, but this, I'm going to keep it pretty thin. Okay. So, let's see. This bottle here. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. Like, you see how, like, I made it so dark here? I'm going to just make it thicker just to compensate the lines that I messed up earlier. Because I kind of redrew that line over and over again to make it correct. So... sometimes if you make your lines too thick, though, in some areas, you know, you can just make it the other parts thicker to kind of counterbalance the, you know, mistakes that you guys made. So I wouldn't even worry about using the Sharpie for the background. Okay, unless it is like areas of the drawing that you want to make darker. So, for example, maybe maybe I'll make this part of the trash bag black, just because I know it's black in the picture. So I'll just make this black because it's supposed to be a black bag if I remember. It's the trash bag, the trash can. So you can think about like contrast as well. So this I know I wanted to make black as well. Same thing with the skull here. Eyes. Maybe I'll make the hallway black, just so I could show different areas. So you can, you know, make some artistic decisions on, you know, what areas you want to have dark and what you want to keep white. Just, you know, I just wouldn't go too crazy with it, but you know, why not? I think this will look nice as black back here. I think it was a dark value, so I don't have too many values to play around with, so okay, but you kind of get the idea, so okay, so just finishing the drawing. All right, you can see how it's kind of coming together a little bit more like my drawing. So it's kind of like before and after. Yeah, I'm liking some of those changes I made. All right. Okay.